Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. I got a little story. In 1983, I was down in the West Village in Manhattan, and I was making like my usual run through Tower Records. They had a pretty famous location on East 4th Street and Broadway, which is probably a condominium now. But anyway, so I picked up this new hard rock / heavy metal record. I brought it home and I slipped it on the turntable. And it was really very different from anything else in that genre that I ever heard before. And I think in many ways, this particular record was the start of the transition from, you know, what was in the 70s and 80s called hard rock to what became heavy metal. And when I looked at the record, it was also one of the few times that not only did I look at the list of players trying to figure out who the guitar player was, but I wanted to see who was playing bass, because the bass on that album, every note, it was like thundering. It was like the universal spirit was wrapping its arms around you every single note. And it's really funny the way things work. You know, you can't connect the dots going forward, but it's a true honor and privilege to have that bass player as my guest today on this show 35 years later. I'm here with Rudy Sarzo, and the record, of course, was Quiet Riot's Mental Health album. Rudy, in case you have been living under a rock and you don't know who Rudy is, he's probably arguably one of the most successful bassists in the history of rock and roll. He's a 5-time platinum recording artist who's performed worldwide for close to 40 years. He's recorded and played with Ozzy Ozbourne, Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, Dio, Blue Oyster Cult, Yngwie Malmsteen, Jeff Tate's Queensryche, and several other bands, and he's currently a band member of the Guess Who. As a member of Ozzy Osbourne's band from March of 81 to September 82, Rudy toured the world in support of the Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman records. You can also hear his bass playing on Ozzy's multi-million selling CD called Tribute and the Speak of the Devil CD and DVD. As a member of Quiet Riot from September 92 to January 85, Rudy recorded the multi-platinum albums Mental Health, which was the first heavy metal debut album to reach #1 on the Billboard charts, and Condition Critical. During this period, Rudy headlined worldwide tours, appeared on numerous MTV videos, and was voted #1 bassist in Circus magazine. And as a member of Whitesnake from April 87 to September 94, Rudy recorded the multi-platinum album Slip of the Tongue. As a member of the reunited Quiet Riot from May 97 to August 2003, Rudy performed worldwide on headlining tours and as special guest in support of the Quiet Riot CDs Alive and Well and Guilty Pleasure. And recordings with all of these artists combined have sold well in excess of 30 million copies. In February 2004, Rudy joined Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force for the US 30-city Attack Tour. And in April 2004, Rudy became member of the multi-platinum heavy metal group Dio, and he remained that band's bassist until Ronnie passed in 2010. During this time, Rudy toured the world with Dio, and he recorded the Holy Diver 25th Anniversary Live DVD and CD, and Dio's last studio track ever called Electra. In addition, when Rudy wasn't busy with Dio in his spare time, he toured the world with Blue Oyster Cult until 2012. And from 2013 through 2014, he was a recording and touring member of Jeff Tate's Queensryche. Today, Rudy's a touring and a band member of the Guess Who. He's also an author. His book, Off the Rails, was published in 2016, and the book is his first-hand account of life on the road as a rock musician, along with his memories and experiences with Randy Rhoads. And the book has literally several hundred 5-star glowing reviews on Amazon, so I'd encourage you to check that out. Last year, Rudy was inducted into the Hall of Heavy Metal History for being at the forefront of heavy metal bass. He's also ran a record company, and he's an avid computer animator who's worked in this field professionally. He's a hustler, which is one of the reasons I was drawn to him when we first met. And I would also encourage you to watch the movie Hired Guns, which Rudy has a significant role in. It's about the sideman aspect of the music business. And to be honest, when I saw Rudy in that movie, it was really interesting, because I said, man, I really would like to get to know him better, and I'd love to get him on the show. And at the time, I was like, how the hell am I going to do that? But literally 30 days later, I got introduced to Rudy by not one person, but by two different people. So, the universe has supported and endorsed this conversation you're about to hear. Another thing I learned about Rudy is that he's been married for 34 years. And as I mentioned to him before the call, that's, to me, probably more of an accomplishment in his successful career even. So congratulations. And, man, thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
It's great to be here, Craig. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, man. Really well.
It's like when you were mentioning, my achievements. It's like my life passed right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, well, the years go by that fast sometimes, so it seems, when you look backwards, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long eulogy.
Well, hopefully not anytime soon, man.
Well, you never know.
Hey, you came to the States from Cuba in '61.
Yes, sir.
And my original question was that part of the Peter Pan thing? But you said your dad and mom moved with you, so I guess it was not.
Yeah. Peter Pans were the children that were basically fostered in the United States, and but my parents were ready to do something like that if as the last resort. I mean, it took us about over a year to get our paperwork, documentation to be able to leave Cuba and enter the United States legally. As a matter of fact, you couldn't really leave Cuba illegally. You would have to have your passport and you have to have your visa and somebody to claim you. The way to get a visa in those days to enter the United States from Cuba was you have to have somebody to claim you. Claim responsibility for you being in the United States. So, getting all of that and also doing it under the radar, because if anybody who was going through that process will become person non grata in Cuba. So, you will get, you will start getting hassled by the defense committee, which is basically a neighborhood watch that they implemented. Every block had a neighborhood watch and what happened was that the neighborhood watch men and women who participated in that program were basically originally the undesirables that live in the neighborhood, because they had the time to be watching people, such as, the undesirable element.
Yeah, everybody else is working and making a living.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man.
Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden the people that you were trying to avoid, or your family was trying to avoid because, they were not part of society, basically. Then all of a sudden they become the powerful ones.
Wow, that's a weird way of obtaining control. Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, case in point, my parents did not tell my immediate family members, such as my mom's mom or her brothers and sisters, that we were leaving. We just one day we took off. Yeah. And that was it. We were not able to hand down any of our personal belongings to our relatives because they didn't want to create. My parents did not want to create any suspicions that something was up.
Yeah. Totally get that.
Yeah.
Did they eventually did your family back in Cuba eventually understand and why your mom and dad did it like that?
Oh yeah. Because eventually, within a year or two, most of them also left Cuba. So it was understood. I mean, everybody knew what was going on. But the initial motivation for leaving the country was the fact that the children became actually the government had a bigger role in the life of the children rather than the parents. So at any time, children could be sent over to Russia as exchange students. They were called pioneritos, which is little pioneers. That was it's like you find in every socialist environment that all these interesting titles are given.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in Cuba right now, there's the Ministry of Rock. So if you want to be in a rock band and perform live in Cuba, you have to be a member of the Ministry of Rock, and then your set list has to be approved, and your songs and so on. It's kind of like Harry Potter.
Well, so it's all like different mechanisms of control, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Holy
and this,
shit.
this goes back to 1960. To the revolution, to the beginning of the revolution. There's all these titles.
The Ministry of Rock.
That's right.
.com. In 1977, you moved to L.A., and I was curious what you were doing before you moved to L.A. and what prompted that move.
Actually, I came to L.A. prior to that I came to L.A. with a couple of guys that eventually we left L.A., went back to the Midwest, and put a band together. Because we knew that LA was a very harsh environment to survive, because there was not top 40. And it's not like we wanted to be in a top 40 band. No, it's just like we wanted to be able to survive in a top 40 environment, making a living, playing music, and then write. And that was not possible in LA, in the what is called the Sunset Strip area. So we went to the Midwest. We put a band together that was named Shatterstar, and we started to tour the Midwest. And as we became a touring band, playing top 40, but also incorporating original material, which was the goal of the band, to be an original band, but also making a living as a top 40 band.
And these are all buddies of yours from Miami?
No, actually, well, the only one that joined later on, he was not an initial member of the group, was Frankie Banali, who was still in Florida at the time. Then he moved to Chicago because the band became based out of, we based ourselves out of Chicago area. And we were touring, the Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. And there were so many clubs. It's like, made mid-70s, 75, 76. By 77 is when we made the move to Los Angeles. And it was actually Frankie Banali, Bob Marlette, who is a very successful producer, songwriter. And we based ourselves out of Los Angeles.
What did you do once you got to LA as far as finding work, or did this band Shatterstar still exist then?
Well, no, we were not Shatterstar anymore. That disbanded in Chicago, and then we came over to, it was by, again, we became a band. The band was called Scarab. We were all living in an apartment in West Hollywood area, Melrose and Sweetser. And we were just trying to survive. There was a few things that were going on that I'm not going to go into detail. But it was just basically survival mode.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much everybody else's. I mean, if you talk to Nikki Sixx about it, they were all in survival mode. And, if you talk to the guys from Wasp, it was all pretty much the same. You know?
But that's probably not uncommon for any new band starting out, or in any business even. Forget about band. I mean, you're starting out, you're in survival mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was pretty much that. Yeah.
How did you get the gig with Ozzy? Or maybe let's do this. Talk about the timeline maybe of the Quiet Riot audition and the timeline of your involvement with Ozzy and with Quiet Riot, because I think it goes back and forth a little bit, and the listeners would probably be interested in hearing the story directly from you.
Yeah. With Quiet Riot was in 77. By 77, that band that we're talking about, Scarab, broke up, and I moved over to New Jersey to join my brother's top 40 band, called a New Taste, and we were playing lounges. There's a lot of there was a big lounge scene in Jersey. In the Paramus area where my brother was living at the time with his wife, who was also a member of the group. And I went there to make money so I could go back to LA and, keep trying.
Yeah.
And I at the time, right when I was getting ready to go back to LA, I got a call from Kevin DuBrow because they were looking for a bass player to replace Kelly Garney, who had been the original bass player of the band. And they basically tried everybody in town, but some people kept saying, hey, you should get in touch with Rudy Sarzo. And he recalled meeting me.
Yeah, this is a good story.
Yeah, when I was during that time that I was in Los Angeles with Scarab, because I saw the band performing at the Starwood, and I was really impressed, because I know how hard it is to get a vision, to be original, basically, And when I first saw Quiet Riot, I was really, really impressed of the vision of the band. That they did not come off as a bar band. They came off as an arena band. They happened to be playing at a club, but they had this arena vision of what the band was all about and everything about it, from the concept of the band having a certain image or look, and their presentation, their production, the songs, everything was they were aiming towards being an arena band, which is what's I think that's the ultimate goal, to be a recording band, arena band, touring a band, And so I after their show, I pulled Kevin to the side and introduced myself, and I say, hey, I get what you guys are doing, man. That's fantastic. Keep on it. I think you guys are really going to make it someday. But I did not hit him up for a gig, and he thought, wow, that's rare. The guy complimented us and he didn't hit me up for to join the band. So he remembered that. And the fact that I have an accent is what said, oh yeah, I know who you're talking about, Rudy, the guy with the accent, And so when it so he called me up and I said, yeah, you know what, I'll be there. I'm going to be in LA in a couple of weeks. So let's hook up, and that's when I did the audition.
Wow. And what's the timeline there from that to Ozzy now?
Yeah, okay, so that was about 76, 77. I think it was 77. And then 77, 78, 79. By 79, that's, I have been in the band, and we have all, mutually struggled to get the attention of record companies and get a record deal and so on. But at the time, new wave and punk was what the record companies were really interested in. They weren't not interested in a 70s glam metal rock band, So they were really passing on, on us. Then meanwhile, Ozzy Ozbourne comes into town and is looking for members, and I was trying to get contact to reach out, to Ozzy to audition. Meanwhile, Ozzy was calling Randy because the guy that was the bass player already, that was helping him out, Dana Strum, who later on became the bass player for Slaughter. He was telling Ozzy, hey, you got to check out this guy, Randy. Now, meanwhile, Randy didn't want to join the band because he's felt loyalty towards Quiet Riot, and plus he had never been away from LA, with a band. So he was skeptical about leaving home. And it was his mom, Dolores, who was also a musician and a teacher. She had this music school in Musonia where Randy taught, and then later I taught bass there. And she says, listen, Randy, it's this might be your only chance to really make it. I think you should give it a shot. And it was her who actually talked Randy into not just auditioning for Ozzy, but also, to join Ozzy in the UK, So that's about 79, the ending of 79. So from 79 to 80, Randy joins Ozzy in England, makes those two records, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. And then by 81, they were looking for a bass player. They were replacing the rhythm section that recorded those two records, Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake. So by the time I actually got the call, Tommy Aldridge had already, become the new drummer. And they were looking for a bass player. And Randy, it was a situation that they needed to find somebody immediately because they already had a tour lined up. And it was 2 weeks, from now they had to go on tour, So there were certain qualities that they were looking for, not just somebody who could play the music, but somebody that they could trust to not being a bad influence on Ozzy, and somebody that they could trust in every single aspect of a new member of a group. And since I already knew Randy, or Randy knew me, he trusted me. He says, listen, I know this guy. He will fit in perfectly. He's got everything that you're looking for right now. And Randy just basically put his trust out there, And of course, Sharon and Ozzy trusted Randy. That's how I got the gig, because I had no resume. I had no previous experience as a touring, worldwide touring musician. I was this guy playing on the Strip, right, on Sunset Strip. So they really, really relied on Randy, to make that call, and that's how I got the gig.
So you had to learn a shit ton of songs in like 7 to 10 days.
Yeah. But Randy helped me out. Yeah. I mean, he sat down with me because, of course, we were going through the rehearsal process, getting to not only practice the music, but also, preparing ourselves for a live production really quickly. It had to come together really quickly. And, Randy really, really helped me out. But nevertheless, you have to put in your time and your effort and your focus and everything, about it. You have to raise your game. Absolutely. And getting to play with somebody like Tommy Aldridge. I mean, that was really something that I had to keep up with. It was, because it was different. It was what Tommy always brings to a band is that urgency in the playing, and that is something that I had never experienced before. I mean, I have been playing with on and off with somebody like Frankie Banali, but it's Frankie is a different type of drummer. He's more on top of the beat, kind of like from that John Bonham school, And Tommy was a very, double kick drum, leaning forward type of playing, which I had never experienced before. And he brought that into the band. Like if you listen to the difference between the studio albums and the songs being performed by that, our band, our version of the band, it's a very different feel. And I had to quickly adapt to that.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really cool. 2 questions crossed my mind. Number one is, did you even have time to like reflect of like, holy shit, 6 months ago, I was struggling to make the rent, and now like what a dramatic change in your life?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because my whole Zen. Yeah. By Zen, I mean it's my outlook on life and the way that I not only presented myself, but also my attitude towards life was all. Even before I joined the band, it was based in gratitude. So I did have a spiritual foundation that helped me, center myself at a spiritual center, because everything was coming at me so fast and so furiously that if I didn't have that, I would have lost myself in this wild vortex that I was thrown into. So yeah, it really did. I I I could actually go out there, perform, do all these incredible shows, playing with Randy and Ozzy and Tommy, and then actually reel myself back to reality of what this actually meant.
Okay, so you were probably in your 27, maybe 28 when this whole thing was going down?
No, I was 30 years old.
Okay. Where did you... Like, I've had very brief conversations with you, but it's clear that you have like a real high level of awareness. But I find that unusual that you had that same, probably not the same, but that you had a high level of awareness at that age. Where did that come from, man? That's pretty unusual.
Yeah, it came about from searching for a spiritual center, and it's one of those things that you must seek. I don't think anybody can actually enforce that upon you. It's something that you must be ready to receive, and at my lowest point in my life, I was at my highest spiritual awakening, which is what really got me through it,
But that doesn't usually happen at that age.
Well, I was 30 years old by then.
But that's young though, Rudy.
29, 30. Yeah, but in the rock and roll world, it's not very young. Sometimes, in that world, if you're at that age and you haven't come close to making it, that you're considered it's never going to happen.
Sure. Yeah, I just find it amazing that you had that level of awareness though at that age. That's pretty impressive, and forgetting about what you were doing, but just to have the introspection at that age, I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, I found that spirituality or religion, whatever, you need to call it, it's something that it's a personal experience. I can have this conversation about it with you because you happen to ask me about it. But this is not something that I feel compelled to share with everybody, because if I do, I might be sharing it with somebody that is not going to have any connection with it at all.
No, I get it. That's very impressive. That's because I really work very hard at having an awareness. I certainly didn't have it at that age, man. That's for sure. Not that I'm the barometer for everybody. I was probably delayed, but nevertheless, it's really impressive. If you could share maybe an interesting memory you have of your experience as a member of the following bands, Whitesnake and working with Dio. I was curious if you have, what was a memorable experience in both of those situations?
With Dio, by the time that I joined playing with Ronnie, it was, I felt that I had just been through about every experience in the business. And Ronnie just raised the bar. I mean, I have never been in a band with somebody who was so morally and musically complete.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah, he's a very powerful individual to have to, in your life, and I learned so much from him. It's it's funny how certain individuals will say, well, Ronnie sings about this subject or that subject, or I measure people by their deeds, not by the content of their art that they create. I measure them by what incredibly kind human beings they happen to be, to humans and to animals too. Ronnie, he was one of the first, if not the first, major heavy metal artists to actually start charities. He back in the early '80s, he had this organization called Children of the Night that helped runaways in Los Angeles.
I didn't know. That's really cool.
Yeah, and then he was the pivot for the hearing aid. We're Stars. That foundation, which was what happened was that USA for Africa did not want to incorporate heavy metal musicians in their charity. So Ronnie said to Yngwie Dio, his wife at the time and manager, he said, "You know what? Screw them. We're going to start our own." So that was the genesis of creating that. Helping out, the starving people in Africa. And he was always charitable. As a matter of fact, before he passed away, he created the Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund, and it's still going on. It's raised millions of dollars, to help cancer research, and not only research but also testing, to prevent cancer, to test early, especially in males,
It's really cool how he used like lyrics to create the names of all these charities as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was always curious about Operation Mindcrime. I found that when that came out, it was an amazing record. I always felt like it was the metal version of like Dark Side of the Moon.
Mm-hmm. Well, my affiliation with that would be just purely that I got to tour with Jeff Tate when he put together his version of Queensryche, and we actually performed that whole masterful record. Is magnificent. It's flawless.
Oh, I know. Well, my question was that challenging technically?
No. I mean, I play. I mean, everything. If you play Wild Thing, 3 chords. Yeah. Nothing is easy.
Yeah.
You should never take any song lightly just because it might seem simple. Sometimes the hardest things to be is to be simple. And even so simple or technically challenged, you should always approach it exactly with the same respect. Was it technically challenged? No, I mean, it's beautifully written and performed, the record. So every part is very significant. All the components make up this one great, beautiful, masterpiece. So my challenge was to actually be able to reproduce what was on the record, because that's what the fans expected, right. And that's what they should be receiving. If we're going to perform, we're going to perform a whole piece of music, Operation Mindcrime, and we're advertising we're going to be performing this. I am completely. It's my responsibility to be part of the reproduction of that. Not to put my 2 cents in, because it was not my record. I didn't play originally on it. Even though the people that are the original performers on any piece of music are granted the right to change it.
Right.
Because we all do. We all grow as musicians. I mean, I can look at records that I recorded, 30 years ago, and I go, oh my God, I wish I could re-record that now, because I probably will play it like this or like that. But I don't think the people that come later on are actually, they're giving that much leeway, unless it becomes a situation like me being part of a rhythm section where I have to adapt my playing to the way that other people treat the music, especially drummers, because I have to play along with them, which actually brings me to something else. I'm currently the new bass player of the Guess Who. And outside of playing with Frankie Banali in Quiet Riot, from the Mental Health record on, I this is the other time that I get to play with an original drummer from a band.
Yeah.
And it not only is such a delight and such a joy, but I actually get to play with I can now capture the feel and the essence of what's actually on the record with the guy who actually the drummer,
yeah,
who recorded those songs. So it works. It works because I don't have to adapt to something that has been reprogrammed by somebody else or generations of people passing on and playing it.
Yeah.
I actually get to play with the same feel and bass parts as the original, which is beautiful because I grew up with that. And to me, that's what the song needs,
Yeah, that's some great music coming.
Oh God, beautiful.
What are the things you miss about touring in 2018 versus touring back in the day, and what do you enjoy about touring today that wasn't there back in the day?
That's a really, 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 really good question. Wow. I mean, I to miss something, it means that, oh no, I can tell you what is different.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make really much of a difference on the way that I approach or hit the stage. By the word hitting the stage, I mean I put as much love and respect into the music I did back in the 80s as I do today, even though certain things are very, very different. What's different for me personally at this point, as we're having this conversation today, is that back in the 80s, we used to get a lot of support from MTV and a lot of radio support, terrestrial radio, Now we basically, and when I say radio support, remember, like your podcast can be reached by anybody in the world. When we did radio, it was local.
Yeah.
For example, let's say if you were a DJ and I came to your station and were you in Tampa now?
Yeah. But I was
okay. Yeah. Okay. So whatever city, I'm just going to name it. Okay. Let's say Dayton, Ohio. We're traveling. We go to the morning show, Dayton, Ohio. That interview that I do is going to be heard only by the people in that area.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It's a very, very, very different.
Yeah.
So, and we were there and we would talk about things having to do with the show that evening and the record. And they would play that one song that there's an MTV video that's promoting, because it pretty much became Radio Star playing on what MTV was playing videos. They weren't just singles anymore. They were MTV videos, So MTV, whatever was popular on MTV, that kind of like dictated what was going to be popular on the radio, And that's very different from what it is right now. You have bands, like for example, the Guess Who were getting ready to launch a record at by fall, late summer. And we're looking at the new ways of promoting an album, because it's completely different nowadays than it used to be, back in the 80s. So that I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we have. How are we going to, in this massive landscape of social media, how are we going to take the focus of our fans, create an awareness that we have this new record, whereas 30 years ago there was a machine, there was a system that did that.
Yeah.
You had the record company. That was the record company's job, to do that. Now, record company's job is share more between the band and the record company, more than ever. As a matter of fact, record companies will, as far as them taking you behind the veil behind that curtain of what the industry was, it was almost impossible. We really didn't know. You know, we will come into contact with the radio promotion guy when we were in town. With marketing, only when we were visiting the label. Now it's an everyday communication. You have to communicate with marketing. They set meetings, Skype meetings. They send emails. They get a street team going on. It's so complete. It's almost like either 50-50 or the band has to make the biggest effort there is.
Yeah.
To promote the album. Where our effort to promote the record was actually to go on the road, do radio stations, signed at the record store signings, do whatever interview backstage for the local paper that was reviewing the show that evening, and that was it. And you would do that just about every day that you were playing.
So record stores don't exist, local papers don't exist, and
local radio stations.
Yeah.
That play rock and roll barely exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything's changed. That being said, is there the connection with the audience? Has that changed, or is that still the same? Or do you find like social media's? How does that?
Yeah, you know, to me, there's nothing like face to face. By the time that I was touring with Whitesnake, I was in a program with PV Electronic that I or Adrian Vandenberg and we used to do in stores. And we used to have about, the band, that was like at the height of Whitesnake. So we would get about 1,000 kids, fans, come to the in-stores. And we would do the in-stores like right before sound check. So around 3 o'clock, 2:30, go in, do the signing, meet face-to-face. There's nothing better than face-to-face,
Sure.
you know. Now we got Facebook. back then was actually face-to-face, you know.
Yeah.
And to me, there's nothing like that, you know, which I really miss that. I mean, the closest thing we have to it now would be VIP meet and greet.
Sure.
You know, which is good, which is fine.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And everybody that has like any sort of, at least my observation in going to concerts, anybody that has a little bit of a crowd and some marketing awareness is doing those, and they should be, because it's.
Well, you have to.
You'd be crazy not to, because it's a good source of added revenue.
Yeah.
It's funny because I went to, I took my older son, I guess in 2011, to see Government Mule up at the Beacon in New York. And I had to buy VIP tickets because that's the only thing that was there, because I wanted to sit close. But I'm not a guy that's like sort of starstruck. So I bought the VIP tickets, but we didn't do the meet and greet. It was weird. I don't know why. And I guess he wasn't either. We just wanted to get good seats to hear the music and see what was going on. But they were real busy with that.
Yeah. And aside from meet and greets, after the show with the Guess Who, we do signings. We go out there, we sit at the table and we do signings, and it's kind of like that. It's less personal than a VIP meet and greet, because everybody's kind of like in a line going by you. But still, we do that, you know, and so we are very accessible.
I think that's really appreciated by people that are waiting on that line, though. I think that's
and we appreciate them sticking around, you know.
Yeah. You grew up in Cuba as a little boy, then you're in Miami. What was your childhood like?
Well, it was like my childhood. Okay, I was a child. It's funny how quickly you grow up and leave your childhood behind once you become a refugee, because that was our status, you know.
That's what I was curious.
Yeah. I mean, things change, you know, because you go from like, you know, living what is considered a normal lifestyle, you know, as a child. And then your family leaves everything behind, come to a foreign country and learn a new language. There was definitely a language barrier, you know, and I had to learn the language quickly. or at least how to survive while I'm learning the language, which was another thing, survival skills.
Right.
Because you're learning, it's a process. So what do you do in the process? You survive, especially in school. Kids can be very abusive.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
To strangers, so I understand that. So you survive that make, that, and not only do you survive that, you kind of like almost, in order to survive that, you have to understand where they're coming from. You might not agree with them, but one of the things that I learned in life was that people fear the unknown. If they don't know you at any important point of your life, they're going to fear you because they don't know who you are.
A buddy of mine used to say, "We mock what we do not understand."
Yeah, exactly. And fear. We fear what we don't understand.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned about that is not just to be likable, but to be understood. I learned to be understood very early on. And by being understood, to me, you must be honest with people. You must be an open book, because they have to read you really fast in order not to fear you. And that's one of the things that I of course, I did not set out to do that as a kid, but that was one of my survival skills, to be understood really quickly. To be that person that walks in the room and is non-threatening, but also is the person that you say, okay, that person is all right. He's not sending out bad vibes.
Bad mojo. Yeah.
Bad mojo, You're the person that, it's not like you're going to blend in the room, but you're going to create maybe comfort.
Yeah.
Bring comfortable vibes into the situation. Calm it down. Even though you don't know who I am, but you know what? I'm here, and I'm going to make this room, this environment more calm, more zen. And if you're interested in why this is happening, you might get to know me, and we might be friends from that. We might create a relationship. Even the people that might feel threatened by that, eventually, if you create enough zen in the room,
right,
they'll gravitate towards that.
Yeah, well, you learn too, most of the time the people that have stuff going on has nothing to do with you, and it's their own stuff.
Yes, absolutely. I became more sensitive to people. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I am. They probably have never even seen anybody from my cultural background. So you kind of like become an ambassador. It's kind of like, okay, you never met a Cuban before. Of course, we're talking about the early 60s, Okay, well, I'm one of them, and this is who we are. And so you kind of like become like a very young spokesperson for them, for the rest of the Cubans,
I grew up in New York City, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things I'm most grateful for is that I grew up with everybody. So I'm not threatened if I hear accents.
Yeah.
And I actually like that, because I know if I hear a guy who's got an accent, he's got a different book that's probably not like my book, and I can probably learn something beneficial to me in that. And I always found that very helpful.
Yeah. And speaking of accents, people ask me, how come you still have an accent? It's because I'm honest. This is me. This was part of my open book, approach to the world. This, if you meet me, this is who I am.
Sure,
and I've been like this ever since I can remember, As a matter of fact, when my family was relocated from Miami to New Jersey. We lived in West New York. It's from 63 on to 66, 67, early 67. And
that was rough over there then, if I remember correctly, West New York,
everywhere was rough.
Dude, I'm from the Bronx, so you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, but you're dealing with, it's again, nothing was easy, and it was my survival skills that kept me from being a bitter individual, growing up a bitter individual, becoming a gang member, retaliation, all of that. It's like, you get to understand humanity, or the inhumanity within humanity.
Yeah. And
you get to understand why this is going on, and you want to become part of the solution, not part of the problem,
Yeah.
And so my first day of school at public school number 5 in New Jersey, West New York, I go there, and I still, I've only been in the country for maybe a couple of years. So my English was very, very,
Spanglish.
It was Spanglish.
Yeah.
I just come from Miami, trying to learn English from other Cubans.
Yeah.
So I sit down on my desk, and the teacher goes, he calls out Rudy, and I'm not paying attention, and he goes, "You back there," and I raise my hand, and I go, "Oh no, Rodolfo," and he says, "No, you're Rudy from now on." That's how I got my Rudy name, from my teacher. And I said, "Okay, sure,
I'll take it. It's not that bad."
It's not that bad. It's I thank God for that, because right now, if my email address would be Rodolfo Maximiliano Sarzo Grande Ruiz Parechamo, really long email address.
At gmail.com, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That'd be a bit of an issue. What I know you have a brother, Robert, who's a guitar player. Did you have any other family that came over with you, or was it just you two?
Well, my mom and dad, and I have an aunt and an uncle that came kind of like 2 days later, and joined us, in Miami. So, that was about it, and then slowly my other relatives started coming over.
What kind of work did your folks do, or your dad anyway, once they came over here, once you started getting settled, like in Jersey?
Yeah, my mom was a homemaker in Cuba, and then not until we moved to New Jersey that both my parents had to go out to work. And of course, because my dad worked in journalism, in printing, and publishing. Once he moved to the United States, he couldn't proofread any of the publications, so he could not get a job in what he was trained at in Cuba. So, he had some really, really incredibly difficult times, a lot of manual labor. And then later on in New Jersey, my mom joined him in the workforce also. So basically, by the time I was 13, I was basically my mom and dad would go to work, and I would take care of my little brother, Robert. He must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I would make breakfast and get ourselves ready to go to school. We were going to the same school at that time. We were both in elementary school.
I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, one of the things I like about you and respect is you're a hustler. Do you think is that inherent in you, or did you get that like from watching your dad having to go through this and do whatever he could to make ends meet for you guys?
Yeah, again, survival skills. I mean, I read a lot of motivational material, standard stuff, Tony Robbins and the Napoleon Hill and so on. But, there's just there's also this movement about the, if you wish something, it will happen.
Oh, like The Secret.
The Secret.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that they leave out is you have to take action.
You have to do shit. Yeah, that's the same with Think and Grow Rich. You really cannot think. I mean, you could think.
Yes. I mean, I'm really familiar with all of Napoleon Hill's work, but also you have to take action. It's understood that he when that book came about, he just didn't think about putting the book together. He took action and he interviewed all of these, people that he was set out to, by Carnegie to do that.
Right.
So he took massive action, as Tony Robbins would call it.
Right.
You have to take action, and to me that is at the core of hustling. Yes, you have to come up with a plan. You have to have some kind of of action plan here in place, but you must take action. You must do things. Like for example, moving to LA. If I would have stayed in Miami, forget about it.
Yeah.
I knew that if I wanted to become a recording artist, I had to get out of an environment that was more non-existing for rock and roll by the 70s, because that's when disco hit really hard. And all of the clubs turned to disco clubs, and you could not play top 40 anymore. And there was no record company industry that really nurtured rock and roll at the time. Record companies in Miami, so I had to take massive action. I had to get away and go to where it was happening, So hustling. If you don't hustle, I start every day brand new. Like if I haven't made it yet.
Yeah.
You have to.
No, you have to. Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
As far as tuition goes, everybody pays tuition in everything we do, and I was wondering if you'd be kind enough to maybe share one or two mistakes that you might have made along your journey, and what were the lessons that you learned from these mistakes?
Oh boy, you have, that's one drawer that I keep.
You can keep
really, because in order for me to hustle and keep going, I can't be dwelling on mistakes. I got to be dwelling on solutions.
Yeah.
To me, a mistake could be a beautiful thing, because you must learn from your mistakes, And I have learned a lot, so I must have made a lot of mistakes.
No, I totally get that, man. You can't look. It's not a mistake. It's part of the master plan. I totally get it. Yeah.
It's part of the education.
Yeah.
One of the things, let's say football. Football is the team that wins is the one that makes the least mistakes on the field. Which means that you're gonna make mistakes while you're playing the game. And it's keeping it to a minimum. And if whatever mistakes you make on this game, you minimize the same mistakes for the following game.
Right.
Which is to me every day. Every day is to me it's like I'm facing the Super Bowl. I'm gonna, what I mean. So it's like, and sometimes even when things are smooth sailing, I know that if I don't up my game, it's gonna be rough sailing, because you have to anticipate problems and and the consequences that those problems are going to create. So every day. I have to get up like I'm starting all over again.
What's that saying? Every day in the jungle, a lion gets up. You know that one? Yeah. And it chases the gazelle, and are you going to be the lion or the gazelle or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
To me, you're either the hustler or you get hustled.
Yeah.
And the music industry has been based on that from day one, the hustler and the hustled, and it's up to you, and you can only get hustled for so long, until you there's nothing else to hustle out of you anymore, so don't get hustled. Become the hustler.
Yeah.
Be the hustler. And it's not a bad word. You must hustle in life. Everything. It's this is my outlook on life. Each one of us that have ever been born is because we were that one sperm that out-hustled every other sperm to get in.
Bravo.
That's it. Think about it.
Yeah, man.
And which means that I call it God, but anybody else can call it the universe, whatever. Yeah. By being that sperm that got in, we've been trusted. We've been with the initial purpose of what we were created, which is to take care of each other. You know what I mean? To take care of the planet, take care of each other. We've been trusted by the universe, God, to do that. Once we're born, the reason that we have survived as a species is because originally the first men, women that were trusted with that purpose succeeded in taking care of the children that they bore. And those children bore other children. And we became a species, the human race. But at the core of that creation is the hustle. We've been entrusted that we're going to hustle. We've been entrusted that the parenting is going to hustle to help these children become men and women, to create more children, to create more hustlers that are going to hustle to keep the human race and the planet that we've been entrusted with, to conserve it, to preserve it, And with that come lessons, experiences, how we grow as human beings. There's knowledge being handed down by previous generations, So it's without that hustler gene that we carry from sperm to sperm, we would not survive.
I hear that. Hey, if you had to go back and give young Rudy Sarzo or even young Rodolfo advice, what advice would you have given your younger self?
Usually I'm very much in touch with my younger self. And one of the things that I acknowledge is that I am a product of my younger self. My younger self had the vision to create who I am today. So usually what I do is I thank my younger self for the vision and the courage to create who I am, and the trust, the faith that my younger self had.
Wow.
So I usually it's a conversation of me listening rather than telling my younger self anything, because my younger self was a more badass than I am today. Trust me.
No, but that's some deep shit, because if you look at it like that, there's a lot of, at least for me, when you said that, and I thought about that, there's a lot of stress lifted off my shoulders. Because I'm one of these people, I'm a type A in a sense that I want the best out of me, whatever that means. If it's whatever level it is, I want to give,
sure.
And I often look back and say, well, I should have done a better job at this. But if you look at it like, and if you turn that around and say, hey, I want to thank you for doing whatever you've done because you've led me to this point, that's a big stress relief.
And you're welcome.
So thank you. Yeah, that was my next comment. Yeah, that was good shit, man.
Yeah,
you got to send me.
But now that you consider that,
yeah,
think about the reality of it. It's kind of like that saying, child is father to the man.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what is it, Nietzsche who said that? I think it was Nietzsche. Yeah,
I don't know, but I know.
Yeah.
I thought it was blood, sweat,
it was also
blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean that was the first time I became aware of that quote.
Yeah.
Nietzsche. Yeah, yeah.
That was good. You got to send me a bill for the therapy now, man. That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, but these are the things that you pick up from motivational reading, motivational books, and things like that. I have not what I've been talking about to you. I have not read that in any motivational book, but it sent me on a path to have that awareness.
Yeah. Because I've read a shit ton of stuff, and I have not read that either. That's why I was like, wow, this is good stuff. That was brand new. So I smell another book here, Rudy.
A coloring book.
No, a motivational Rudy Sarzo book.
Coloring book, yeah.
Or a coloring book.
Yeah, or you know what, a children's book. Because, children, and I think it's very important what's going on today, that children are given more power, their voice, or being listened to. It's a lot of the issues that adults are facing today is because they were not heard as children.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And they were not taken seriously as children. So I think we're entering that age where children are motivated more to feel safe, to be mature. I was at the airport a couple of days ago, and I'm watching like a 4-year-old, and he's got an iPad, and he's got headphones, and he's sitting quietly at the gate waiting to board the flight. And I got to tell you, I was looking at the body language because he was just like really focused on what's going on. And I said, man, that's a really mature child. And I really think that it's very important to respect the rapid growth that children are having today due to the technology that it's being created, and trusted the child with the technology for them to have a quicker, more mature growth today than we had 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. I think you'd have to make it an audiobook now because I don't think people are reading as much, but I still think it's a good book.
Yeah. Or, anything. To me, reading, audiobooks, anything like that is just tools to share information or to stimulate new thoughts. Because, like just the same way that I've read, tons of, or even listened to a lot of Tony Robbins CDs, or even watch videos on YouTube of Napoleon Hill. It just stimulates. And what it does is I learn from their thoughts, and then I stimulate my own thoughts, and then I share them with like you and your listeners. And that would stimulate new thoughts, that would just keep us as a human race moving forward to the point that we'll think exactly the same way, or at least wish for the same outcome.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah, that would be a lot cooler.
And usually how we reach a certain outcome is not necessarily the same journey or the same path, but we'll get there to the same place.
You're a very intellectually thirsty guy. I mean, and you just very curious to learn new things. And where does that come from? What is the reasoning?
Survival. You must that which doesn't grow dies. And if my skills for learning about people did not progress, I would have never survived. I must understand everybody. Whether I agree with them or not, I must understand them. Because even the worst person you could ever imagine, in their mind, even though it might be a sociopath, they think that they're doing the right thing.
Right.
Even though it is, in the big picture, it's the most vile thing that could happen.
Sure.
They're doing it because they feel that that's their purpose in life. But once we all align our purpose in life for the good of mankind, then we will reach as the human race the ultimate, state of being.
It's very interesting because you've said that survival has been the motivation for a number of personal growth processes for you. And I have felt the same way. Different types of survival, different circumstances, but I have felt the same way that I needed, and I still need to understand stuff, around me, most specifically people, because, that is the key to my survival. Even though I'm not surviving now for the same reason, just like you're not in a survival mode the way you were back then, but it's still, goes back to the hustle, it's really interesting because there's different survival tactics, man, and it's interesting.
But, I do consider myself in total survival mode. Even now, like, we were talking about the competition.
Right.
Music, it's not a competitive sport, but the music industry is
Right.
extremely competitive. So if you're going to be a musician, let's say somebody who's not going to make a living from playing an instrument, there's no competition there, But if you're going to be somebody who's out there keeping the gig or looking for a gig, is incredibly competitive. It really is.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in the bad sense, because competition will help you, will motivate you to grow.
And it is what it is, man. Yeah.
And it's and to be aware of that, you must be aware of that in order to grow and compete, or to have the skills to compete. It's by growth that you sustain a career, very few artists, have been able to not grow but sustain a career. Mostly are people who are in a successful band that, for better or for worse, let's say AC/DC. AC/DC, it's when you go and watch AC/DC, people expect the whole stadium, because they are a stadium band.
Right.
AC/DC, the Rolling Stones, they want to be brought back to an era. They're like time machines.
Yeah, man.
You're all of a sudden you're in the audience and you're 18 years old again, and that's why you're wearing your AC/DC shirt or Rolling Stone shirt.
Yeah.
Or any of those bands who are that they reproduce exactly Kiss, even Kiss.
Yes.
So they sustain a career by reproducing, by becoming time machines. It doesn't mean that they are leaps and bounds better musicians, or they might be, but they don't bring that on stage. For all I know, Angus Young might be a jazz, be at the Wes Montgomery guitar level.
Yeah.
But that's not what he brings to the stage when he plays the stadium.
Yeah, the emotional trigger is nostalgia for
that's
those
right.
acts.
No, that's the product that they so successfully, and they sustain that quality.
Yeah.
That's what makes them so successful. Kiss, when you go to a Kiss show, it's going to be probably even better quality production or show or performance than it was back in the 70s.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to be, jazz musicians on stage.
Sure.
They grow by sustaining the quality of the product. Just like the Stones do.
Yeah.
And but I am not in one of those bands.
Right.
I'm not. So my level of survival is that I must be ready for any situation. I get a call to perform with Jeff Tate, do the whole Operation Mindcrime. I must be at that level of performance, and I practice for that, and I prepare myself for that. I joined the Guess Who. Now I'm at a classic rock performance level. You know, when I play with Ozzy, I had to be at that musical top level. You know, be ready for that. Then, you know, I play with other bands that did not require that musical technique, but it was still there, but I did not bring it on stage, you know. So I am completely aware of that, because if I cannot deliver that level of musicianship, somebody else will.
So you're very aware of the expectations of what people, you know, of what you need to be doing to be successful. Yes. And it's going to differ from everybody based on who's cutting the check, basically. Which group of people you're performing for, what I'm saying. You know, what the audience is expecting. Expecting of me. And I am completely a different bass player with every single band that I play with. Yeah. You know? Do you still practice?
Reason I'm not practicing right now is because I'm talking to you. But see, it's not. It's a practice. No, is because to practice something means to repetitive action, which means that you're already playing something that you know. No, I go to YouTube every single day, and I watch tutorials and lessons, and that's what I do. I focus on gaining new knowledge to expand my musical vocabulary. You know, again, it might be music or techniques that I will not apply on stage because of a certain, you know, type of band that I'm playing with, but nevertheless, it helps me grow as a musician and gives me confidence too.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that does. It is.
So it's not really practice per se. It's more seeking knowledge. I'm learning. Yes. Yeah. If you ask me, are you learning every day music? Yes, I am. I'm educating myself more and more.
What do you like most about you?
I don't know. You know, I look. You know, it's kind of like that is a really good question because I never think about it. But the best way I can equate it to is when people ask me, "What's my favorite song to play on a set?" And I go, my answer is always like, well, it's the whole set. Because if you happen to have one favorite song, once you play it, what happens to the rest of the songs?
Yeah,
you kind of like
they're less favorite.
You know, so I look at it as one big arc. And what I like the most about myself is looking at the big picture of myself that I'm still learning. I'm still enjoying not only life, all my blessings that I've received, but the fact that I living from a point of view of gratefulness. I think that's one of the things that I'm happiest about me is that I can be happy. And gratefulness. Yeah. I am at my happiest when I'm grateful.
I read in an article or I saw an interview where you said that you felt one of the things that you are owe your longevity and success to is kind of what you just said, your adaptability to any given situation. Yes. I was curious. We talked about, you know, you've been married 34 years. What do you feel is one of the reasons, you know, people, I've been at this 25 years. I told you, people always say to me, what's the secret? And I'm like, I don't know. Cause my secret might not be a secret, and it may be totally, love is everybody loves differently, and what it means is different. But for you, what do you feel has been the success to have a loving relationship that long?
Yeah, before you can love anybody else, you got to love yourself. That's the way I feel, and to love yourself is you have to get to know yourself, and to not only to get to know yourself, but to get to be comfortable with yourself, and or become the person that you want to love. I love being myself because, whatever reason it might be, and it's different for everybody. Being grateful is one of the things because, if you do everything from a point of view that you're grateful that you're able to do these things, you cut out the bullshit, basically, to be crude, and I have a wonderful relationship with my wife because I don't think of my wife as being a separate entity. I think of my wife as being a part of me. We are one, but before you can actually love that, to have that union, you have to I must have a really good foundation. And to me, the prime foundation is a spiritual foundation. That to me is where everything rests. Everything, moral center, spiritual center, moral compass, all of that. And so then once you have that strong sense of being within myself, I was able to actually make a union with my wife, and be one with, rather than just being, a couple. We're not a couple. We're one. Yeah. One entity.
Right. I get that.
And and once you are, to me, once I started looking at life like that, it not only did it make it easy, it just make it, I don't have to deal with other things, but just my responsibility to my role within that union.
Thank you. Man, you are in fantastic shape, and I was curious if you work at it, or is that just good genetics, or I don't see you as being a partier when you were younger, but you're in excellent shape, dude.
Well, I'm all right. I'm for my age, and it all comes with health too. It's harder to be healthy if you're not a healthy person. By that I mean, thank God I was blessed with really good genes, so I don't have an illness that comes about from genetic. But it's part of the hustle, part of survival. Again, I have to compete not only with all the great musicians out there today. I have to compete with myself.
Yeah.
The last thing I ever want to hear at a show that I perform at is like, oh yeah, well, this guy used to do this, used to do that.
Yeah.
Or present himself with like, oh wow, Rudy looks like really out of shape. He's really old. Because then when you start losing your audience.
Oh yeah.
Because people don't want to, if they look at a musician that used to be in shape, and now 30 years later they go and watch that guy play again, they're gonna relate to like, oh, he's as old as I am, or worse, Whereas if they see a youthful you on stage, that makes them feel youthful.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that's the reaction you want from the crowd. You want, a youthful audience.
Yeah.
Even though by age they might not be, but by essence, they are.
Yeah, totally.
Youthful. When they listen to the music, they get transported to a better, not a better, but maybe happier time, younger times. Reconnect them with their younger selves, and that's what we sell from town to town. We're little time machines that go traveling around, taking people back.
I see Rudy. I see a whole thing here. I see a workout program. I see a Rudy's spiritual hotline. The cards don't lie, man.
But I do work out. I take a lot of vitamins. I have a friend who is a vitamin guru who like educates me and supports me. With like the best that there is, and it's just fantastic. And I'm very incredibly grateful to that.
Well, you're in good shape. And you know what? One thing is too, when I think having a high energy level is what you just said, that makes all the difference in the world when you're dealing with anybody in any capacity, because he who has the most energy wins usually. That's the way it seems to me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Breathing.
But you're very interested in breathing. I hear that, man.
Breathing, yeah.
2 more questions, man. What's the best advice that you've been given? Or what do you feel is the best advice you could leave others with?
Oh my God! I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's not to me. I mean, there's so many advices, but basically, we're here for a reason. Again, the hustle. We've been entrusted with a purpose. Find that purpose. Find that purpose in life. We all have different purposes. I've been reading the Bible for about 40 years now. One of the things that always hits me every time I come to a certain passage it's about the different organs in the body, that they all have a purpose. The brain doesn't have the same purpose as the kidney, but without the brain or the kidney, you're in trouble. And that's what makes the world such a magnificent place to visit while we're here. Is that we all have different purposes. First, you find it. And then once you find it, just make that your single most important thing of the day. Whether it's to be a parent or to be a teacher, to be a software developer, a musician. We have so many purposes in this world. It's just a matter of being able to fulfill them. Find what that is and just find that purpose that you live and die for. To live and die for one of those is, to me, is to finally, it's a life well lived.
And the last question, man, is, and man, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're a real lovely guy.
Oh, my pleasure, Craig.
What has been the biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of this change has been deliberate and how much has been just a natural part of aging?
Oh, I'm not aging.
I know. He's not. Let me tell everybody. This guy is, he's 13 years older than me. I think he's got less wrinkles than me. A hell of a lot more hair than me.
No, I mean, in aging in the sense, I mean, I think I don't mean aging due to biological changes in your body, but I mean aging. It's like this. The way I look at life is we have 2 elements. We have the genetic DNA element, and as you've probably read in studies, DNA has memory. So as a body, we're carrying on memories from ancestors, right? For better or for worse, right? Then we have the spirit, which to me, the spirit is what drives the vehicle, the body. So basically our bodies are kind of like rental cars. we pick up, we're born, we got the spirit that goes in and goes on this journey. And then at the end of the journey, you turn it in at the rental place and move on. Usually this happens at the airport. So you get on another ship and you travel somewhere else, right? And so we have sometimes the spirit and the body are in conflict. Yeah, sometimes the body has certain DNA that will conflict with a more advanced spirit energy, and this is where certain individuals, turn out to be maybe not such nice guys, because the body's going to be carrying certain addictions. Let's say you might be addicted. I have an addictive DNA in your system, but your spirit doesn't. So your spirit's actually going to try to survive this situation, and it has to make certain decisions. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the addiction that's going to win, or is it going to be the moral compass that your spirit, your energy is carrying? So that's one of the things that I've learned about life. Sometimes you have to let your spirituality drive the vehicle, and let your spirituality govern whatever material or body be experiencing or wanting you to go in a certain path.
So are you saying like over the last 10 years, what you've found is that your mind or your spirituality is more in control of, or you've allowed that to be your guideline, your guidepost?
In the last 20 years, I mean, if we're gonna go back to, let's say, the 30s, 30 years ago, in the 80s, the 80s was a whole different climate for musicians, especially for my generation of musicians. I played with a lot of individuals who did not base their trust on other band members who would not partake from certain activities.
Sure.
Drugs, alcohol, whatever. So sometimes you accept that and you say, you know what? I must be trusted. I must be trusted. So if being trusted, it means that I'm going to sit down with you and partake as we're being social here after the show in the tour bus or somewhere else. Okay, I must do that. I must be in control of it, But with time, it's not that you get addicted to it. It's just that you become complacent to it and you embrace it. And there came a point in my life that I knew that if I continue, not only to be a hustler, to start all over again, to give my best that I could, not only to myself, to my career and my family, I must make a certain decision, which is to completely get rid of any substance use. Not abuse. It wasn't really abuse, but use because
sure.
Because to me, to abuse it is to become incoherent. But to use it is to have some sort of influence in your life. Sure. And little by little, it takes little pieces of your life away. It might take a weekend away from you because, you get a hangover and you go, you have a couple of margaritas on Friday night, Saturday, I got a hangover, and Sunday you're recuperating. Yeah, it's like 3 days out of the week, So I came to a point in my life and said, you know what? I will need this. Yeah. I must be on 100% every single day of my life, every single moment. I get up and I'm ready to go. I go to bed, I don't have a hangover. I go places, I'm designated driver. I'll get you safe, home, all of that. And I became more clear in my responsibilities. about life, and I became more dependable on myself. I could depend on myself, by getting rid of things that I really, really, really did not need, but they were certain social tools back in the day that we had, or ways to really be able to measure each other. Sometimes it was the term more about misery loves company. Certain people were miserable, and if you did not accompany them, because for whatever reason, just because you're in the same band doesn't mean you're in the same journey.
Oh, the same headspace. Yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
You just happen to be sharing this time with these musicians that we're making music, but it doesn't mean once you get off the road that those individuals are on a separate life journey, but while you're in that same tour or production of the record or whatever, you become business partners.
Sure.
Business partners. Basically, that's what we are. We're making music. We're making art. We're making beautiful, joyful things that would stand for a lifetime. But at the end of the day, it's your business partners, and you have different families. A band is the family that you pick.
Yeah.
It's not the family that you're born into.
Yes.
And all of that. And it comes to the point that you realize that once you start playing with people that accept you and trust you because of who you are, not what you do, basically being, whatever you partake in, then life becomes easier.
Yeah.
Way easier, because you're not dealing with detriments. By detriments, I mean things that take away from your quality of life. You're just dealing with what is good and positive about the union of musicians making music.
Man, thank you. I can't thank you enough, man. You're a fucking really cool guy. And I like,
it's a pleasure.
I really appreciate your directness and being transparent and sharing a lot of stuff that you've spent a lot of time thinking about. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I want to tell people where to find you. First of all, Rudy is a band member of the Guess Who, and they are touring right now. So go to look up the Guess Who online and support the Guess Who and support Rudy on tour. His book, Off the Rails, is on Amazon, and go buy it. It's an excellent recounting of his life in the rock and roll business and memories that he shared and experiences with Randy Rhoads. He will be at the Long Island Kiss Expo in May. I think it's May 5th. You can check him out there. And anything else where people could find you?
Yeah, I have some merchandise at ChromaCast.
Great.
Online, ChromaCast. And if they want to get a signed copy of the book, that's the best place to get it, at ChromaCast.
Great.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, support Rudy, man. He's a warrior. He's a survivor, and he's a very sharp
hustler.
He's a hustler, and he's a hustler, man. Yeah, most important, he's got the hustle going. I saw on your Facebook, man. I love it. You had this shirt. It said, pray, hustle, repeat.
Hustle, repeat. Exactly.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. Man, I can't thank you enough for your time, and anything I could do for you, please let me know. And I really appreciate it. Anything you want to come on here and promote at any time is the door.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Craig.
Doors wide open.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Please support Rudy Sarzo. He's an awesome human being, an extremely talented and sharp musician, and he's a hustler. Thanks again to Rudy for spending time with us. I appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes along with some early product announcements and discounts. And remember, most important, happiness is a choice. So make some good choices. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.